That's leaving it to me. So let's do some ohms. Excuse my behind while I get my block. I've been having a conversation with some people about anxiety. And there's so many ways to deal with anxiety, and we're going to look at that more in the new year. But movement is certainly one of them, but also sound is so good. And one image that came in my classes last week is that anxiety is somehow like discordant music. I know I've got at least a couple of musicians here in this group. Discordant music, and it just sounds, maybe it's a little bit like the orchestra tuning at the beginning of a symphony, or everybody in a rock and roll band testing out their equipment to make sure it works with no consideration for the sounds around. And then at a certain point, somebody plays a tune or a note that everybody links in on, and all the discordancy becomes community of song. And I've been wondering if anxiety could be like that, if there could be a way of pulling the discordant energies within us, not getting rid of them, because a lot of times we use the image of discharging, but could we combine them into some kind of harmony? I don't know. I also know that some of you have anxiety issues here this morning. So you get to be in this experiment with me. If this metaphor works for you, if so, how does it work? So we're going to do 5 ohms, and you can tune in with me, or you can do your own harmony. What sounds, what vowels? Maybe we'll do a couple of E's in the middle. We'll do 2 O's, 2 E's, and then we'll see what happens for the 5th one. Each sound doing just a little something different inside the body. Some days we'll be more clearly able to harmonize with each other, but in the meantime, even just doing these sounds ourselves is so powerful. Okay, so come back to your mat, or stand up on your mat. And if you saw the picture that I posted this morning, I have a snow-covered Buddha in my garden, and he's got his arms up in celebration. And in order to move the shoulder, actually we'll do a little warm up first. In order to move the shoulders in a certain way, we're going to imitate him. So touch your left shoulder, touch both shoulders, and your left shoulder is going to go forward and down, and your right shoulder is going to start down and go backward and up. So right shoulder down, left shoulder up. And then we're going to switch and switch. And it's not a straight line. Imagine that you're doing a half circle, which is more what you really are. And this is going to help us just create movement in the shoulders and some strength and balance and flexibility. All right, so now the left shoulder is up, the right shoulder is down. And then again, one more time. Now pay attention to the back of your shoulder. And so touch a little bit further back on your shoulder. And now the left shoulder is going to be up. The right shoulder, you will have lifted the elbow all the way up so that your right shoulder blade goes down, and then switch again. If this is one of those little confusing things that I do sometimes, good. It's okay to not have a clue what's going on and just to move things around. But see if you can feel now a half circle going down the back of your shoulder joint. Okay, good. So we've moved. Now we're going to take our hands and pretend that we are making halos over our heads. Maybe you did this when you were a kid. No, Mom, I'm great. And we're going to take the halo in a circle, and you'll see how the shoulders are doing different things. That relates to what we just did bit by bit. And now go the other way. Kevin's over here going, it's a corona, it's a corona. You can see it's, you know, you can kind of get the whole body moving. All right, pause, shake out the arms. Now we're going to do circles with the hips. I'm going counterclockwise. With how Zoom is with mirroring, I'm not sure what you see at this point, but I'm going clockwise and I'm starting with the hips. Now I'm going up to the upper hip so that each time I do a circle, not each time, each group of circles, I shift a little bit, and then to the waist. I'm leading with a new area. And then to the low ribs. I like actually touching because it helps my body find a new pathway. But you might have your arms out to the side or hands on the hips or whatever you like. But when you're touching the area that's moving, it helps to feel that. And then upper chest. And then jaw. And then do your halo again. And now go the other direction, halo going, for me, clockwise. Do whatever is the opposite for you. Let your arms be free. And do the same movement again. And this time include the back of your head. See if you can lead a circle from towards the back of your head. Top of your shoulders. It's a little easy to get lost in some of these places, and that's why I think it's good to remember whether you're going clockwise or counterclockwise. And now, this time the armpits. You can lead from here, let the rest of the body follow, and then the lower ribs. The waist. And the hips. Now, coming back to center a little bit, feel weight going down your heels. Your knees are soft. They don't have to be a lot bent, but they're not pushed back for sure. And feel a center of something in the middle dropping down through the line of gravity, and it divides at the hips and goes down through each leg. So you're running not just energy down your legs, but also weight, which does have a kind of electrical sense to it. Good. And then take your left shoulder forward, right shoulder back, and reverse. Right shoulder forward, left shoulder back. A couple more times. Your hips are facing forward. You'll feel some turn in the torso, but not a lot. Head facing forward. Just moving the shoulders in this way. And then both back. both forward, both back, both forward, both back. You can let the arms come out a little bit. And especially as you go back, make sure that your low ribs stay in, that they don't pop forward. You're not moving your ribs forward, you're just moving your arms. And so you're spreading your wings in the back, you're opening the wings, you're spreading the wings, you're opening the wings, spreading the wings, opening the wings. A couple more times. Good. Good, and then pause again. And feel. Now standing with your hips and a little bouncy for a moment. I have a plan, I have to tell you, but I rarely teach 30-minute classes. So you're watching the time. The right arm goes up, reaches up, comes over for a side bend. As you do this, roll your chest up a little bit so the shoulder moves back, but see if you can roll your chest up without popping your ribs out. So you can use your other hand to keep your ribs in. And come back, left arm up and over, ribs in, side bend, but look up with your chest and your eyes a little bit. Your ribs in, opening up. So we're making room, and then hands on the hips in case you did eat something over the yesterday break. And have a little bit of sense of your butt is behind you, not in front of you. As one of my teachers says, your behind is behind. It's not tucked under. Press down through your hips and then lengthen up through your rib cage. And I'm wiggling to sort of free it up, but I'm trying to just lift it straight up, like I'm just lifting a top right off a container. And so my waist is now way longer than it was a moment ago. And from the length of the waist, I'm reaching down into the feet. Just getting long, long, long here. Also, as you lengthen up this way, you can feel a kind of toning in your abdomen, maybe even a toning in your pelvic floor a little bit. Feet down, especially the heels, especially the outer heels. Soft knees, behind, long waist. And then keep your long waist, drop your shoulders down, because sometimes you lift your shoulders to hold your waist up. Just feel that for a moment. And now turn around and lie down. If you have a block, great. You can put it between your knees. If you don't need it. And then we're going to lie down the center of your pelvis on the floor. You can hold on to the side of your mats or bring your elbows up a little bit and just give your low back a lot of traction. Wiggle your back ribs away from your hips and then bring them down. If you were in class this past week, you'd know that I had straps under here to make that easier to feel, but we aren't going to take the time for that today. And then squeezing the block a little bit, bend your knees, bring your knees in. Rather than bringing your knees in so far that your back rounds this morning, keep your knees far enough away that you keep just a little bit of a whisper of a lower back arch. And then raise your arms up. Spread the shoulder blades. Squeezing the block. You can also be squeezing in the direction of heels to butt. Turn on your legs a little bit. And if it feels okay, you can lift your head. Lift your head from the back of your neck. You can even bring your hand back here. Just gently pull on the hair. And now as you do this, your lower back goes down as your knees come a little closer. You can round up. And then come back down. Arms down. Now, at this point, when you're down, you want the center of your pelvis on the mat, evenish from left to right. Long, low back with a slight hollow here, and then back ribs, especially as far away from the pelvis as possible. So you're going to keep this long waist. If possible, the low ribs are tucking towards the pelvis. And that gives a little tone here. So you're lengthening your abdominals as you work them. So don't let the tailbone come up at all. Just take the ribs down, and then there's a little work here around the waist, around the front of the belly, even around the core of the back. And then bend your knees up without losing that hollow at all. Now we're going to roll the knees a little bit to the left. The right hip will come up a little bit. You can have the arms out to the side. Squeeze the block if you have one. Keep the waist long as you come back to center. Go over to the other side. Squeeze the block. The hip that you're rolling away from comes off just a little bit, not too much. You're not going toward the floor. Now, as you come back, instead of using the legs to come back, use the diagonal muscles in your torso to pull you back. And then roll to the other side. And as you squeeze the block, you can still hug the heels into the hips if that feels okay. Now use your abdominals to pull you back. Good. And then bring the knees in a little bit more. Raise the arms up. Shoulder blades are wide. As if you're going to kiss your own knees. The back rounds this time. And then coming back down to the floor. Now, lengthen your waist again. Press your, this time, maybe keep your low ribs on the floor and lengthen your hips away. You get traction that way too. This time you're going around the back again, if that feels okay for you. So if it's important for you not to round your back, if you have strong osteoporosis or disc issues, don't round your back so much you can keep your knees back here. But if it's okay for you to round your back, then bring your knees up a little bit closer this time and take your knees over to the side again. We'll go to the left first. And then pause on the side of the hip, hovering off the floor. And just let there's certain muscles that are stretching, but you also have to work them in order to hover. The face is looking at the ceiling and it's soft. Take your hands to the back of your neck and lengthen the back of your skull away so that your neck stays at ease and your jaw stays at ease. You can come down at any moment, but if it's okay to stay, stay. And then if you like, the top leg gets to straighten out. And that adds some extra work here. Now turn your belly back in the other direction. Then come back to center. Pause. Go to the other side. So you can see I'm rounding my back a little bit, but not a huge amount. But I am hugging my knees a little bit. And then pause over here to the right. And so there's a little stretching that goes across your hip, but as it's opening a little bit, it's also having to hold on so that you don't collapse toward the floor. So use this balance of work and stretch. And you get an opening through the muscles of your back as well, so work at the belly. Keep your low ribs in if you can. The jaw soft, the tongue at ease. If it works for you to straighten the top leg and reach it for a longer lever, that means a little more work. Then you really have to actively turn your belly back towards the midline. But can you keep your jaw soft while your body's working at the lower end of it? And then come back. 2 feet down. You can feel the warmth in your belly now probably. And roll over and sit up. And if you have a blanket, you don't need a blanket actually, but it's a little easier with a blanket. If you have a blanket, fold it in half lengthwise, like this. And we'll follow on that twist with one more action here. There we go. I'm going to take my right hip on the side of the blanket with the right leg extended. If you need to bend the knee, you can bend the knee. And you'll know when you get to the next stage. And then turn, rotate your whole belly towards the mat. And you can either be on your hands, and maybe we'll start on the hands, and then reach the back leg back with the heel directly. And you can look back, see if the heel's directly behind the hip. It tends to go across the mat. So behind the hip, and then heel up. And turn the belly towards the floor. Pull with your hands. So now we've got twisting and lengthening. And if you want to shout here, you can have a twist and shout too. Woo! Draw the belly in and up, but mainly the extension is coming from the reaching. And so as you pull with your hands as if to drag yourself forward off the blanket, the back leg's going, no, we're going in the other direction. And now pause a little bit, give yourself a little break here, keep the same shape, but see if coming down to the forearms feels better or worse for you. So you could interlock your hands in a headstand shape, turn the belly, reach the back leg back. If it feels too much of a stretch for you on the leg that's reaching out to the side, then you can bend that knee and turn the belly. Turn the belly and pull with the arms to create a sense of length. And as you do that, don't sag the belly, but keep letting the rib cage and the waist be in line. And then if it would feel good or interesting to you, you could lift the back leg. So you get a little bit of Saturday morning flying here. And then bend both knees. Roll over onto your butt and keep going. So you get to go to the other side now. And so now your left leg is extended out to the side. Your right leg is behind. Maybe your left leg is bent. You're reaching through that back leg. And you're just letting your body get used to this new direction now. And then hands, you could either stay down with your forearms down if you realize that that's what's best for you, or you can come back up to your hands, elbows hugging in. And I like to kind of feel like I'm grabbing air and then squishing my elbows into my rib cage a little bit, gathering maybe rather than squishing, and then pull myself forward as I reach back through that back leg. And the belly's turning towards the floor. And if you feel like, yeah, enough of that, I'm going to my forearms, interlock the fingers the other way. And then reach back through the back leg. Pull yourself forward. The belly floats up and goes forward. And you'll be taller by the end of this class. Keep relaxing the jaw and the tongue. And now if it feels okay to keep pulling with the arms, you might lift the back leg for a lift off. Depending on how high your blanket is, you might lift off with the other leg as well. Keep turning the belly and keep lengthening in all directions. And then bend both knees to rest on each other. And then, come back onto your butt. Then take this blanket and slide it under your back. Just turn it sideways, slide it under your back. If you're tall, your butt's on the floor, the blanket's under your back. If you're tall, have a second blanket or another something here to hold your head. For me, this works okay. Now have your butt on the floor. And again, traction your back. And by doing that, take your hands on your low ribs. Bring your low ribs as far up the blanket as you can. And then reach back. You can rest with your knees down for a moment. You can extend your legs. And now put your hips and get your hips as far away as you can. And then just touch your low ribs and invite your low ribs to come down towards the waist. And then notice that the shoulders might come up. So here's where the tricky stuff comes in. Shoulders, the ribs down, roll the shoulders out and under. And then on the other side, rib down, roll the shoulder out and under so you get a nice upper chest stretch here. And it's a bit of a back bend for us. Reach the legs out. Feel the body breathing, dropping towards the floor. So even though there's an upward opening for the front body, let your back body fall away from that. Point your toes, point your heels, point your toes, point your heels, circle the ankles, bend your knees, roll over and sit up. Hopefully you have a blanket or a towel. I'm going to invite one more blanket exercise where you have a long blanket. It's long like this. And it could be a towel fold, a long towel, bath towel folded in half. Put that on your mat. We'll have a simple Shavasana here because 30 minutes isn't that long. And if you have another blanket, put a blanket under your head. So you're sitting on this long blanket here. And we're going to use this blanket here just to give ourselves this feeling of snuggling. So extend your legs out. And you still have that little bit of curve in your low back. Take one end of the blanket and wrap it around your hips and thighs. And in my case, it's even around my lower back a little bit. I'm just going to wrap that up here. Sometimes we wrap around the legs, but it can also be super nice and supportive to wrap around the hips like you're snuggling and cradling yourself, swaddling yourself. And then bring the other side around. And then just have just the right amount of height under your head so that your forehead is not dropping below your chin. And if you like, you can even wrap the blanket around the edge of your head a little bit. It might be harder to hear, but what happens is when you wrap your hips like this, your legs don't fall out quite as much, and there's this sense of containment. It's interesting that this sense of containment actually brings a feeling of freedom and support. When you have enough support in the body, there's a sense of freedom. And so settling down. One thing that's fun as a yogi to learn how to do is to move between different energetic states efficiently. So we were just moving and grooving and twisting and working. And now just drop everything into the floor. Feel the weight of your own body sinking down. Feel the support of what's under you rising up to meet you. And feel the sideways wrap of your hips if you did that. And even if your breath is still somewhat rapid because of, just moving around and then getting into position, maybe even a position you don't know, that's okay. Let the breath just be what it is, do what it's doing. And there's nothing else to do right now. Just letting it all be as it is. So you might feel some tingling inside. You might feel some heaviness. You might feel some lightness. Maybe you're somewhere where the sun is touching some part of your body and you can feel the warmth of the sun on your skin, or the cool air in your house, or whatever it is you're noticing. You're just letting all of life be as it is. If you have the time and inclination to keep lying here, feel free to do that. If you want to be done, take a few moments, and without leaving the quiet of Shavasana like that, there's still an echo of the quiet of Shavasana in your system as you roll over and sit up. And for those of you that are rolling over and sitting up, if you want to join me in 3 more ohms, you can do that. I'm switching to gallery view. See you. There's no rush. Feel free to stay down if you want to stay down.
Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace to each of you and to the world. Thank you for coming this morning.